The 2021 NBA free agent market is a very strong one this year, with plenty of good players out there on the open market for other teams to get, or they could be retained. So this video, we're looking at the 10 best free agent point guards out there on the market this offseason. Starting at number 10, Goran Dragic. Now he's 35 years old right now, so he's not getting any younger, but he still had a pretty good season at the Heat last year, averaging 13.4 points per game, 4.4 assists per game, and 43% shooting from the field, and 37.5% shooting from 3. Now, if the Heat decline Dragic's player option for next season, he'll become an unrestricted free agent. He does though have a player option of a team option even, of $19 million for next year. And he's still a great player, still a great scorer, he can shoot the 3, but he's not worth $19 million anymore. So I think the Heat would be better off, decline that team option. If they want to bring him back for a cheaper price, between 8 and 12 million. Now, there'll be plenty of suitors, I assume, out there for Dragic. It won't be just the Heat who, want to keep him. I think any contending team will be happy to have him. He's got plenty of experience getting to the NBA Finals with the Heat in the bubble. He's, as we all know, a great scorer. He can shoot the 3, not a great defender, and is getting older. But for between 8 and 12 million dollars, a contending team, or even Heat, could do a lot worse than Goran Dragic as either their main point guard or their backup point guard. Which brings us on to number 9, Devonte Graham, who is 26 years old, 9 years younger than Dragic, and he averaged 14.8 points per game, 5.4 assists per game, and 37.5% shooting from 3 last year. Now, last year Devonte Graham took a step back. I think with the Hornets, he had a great season during the 1921, but Terry Rozier and LaMelo Ball really helped the Charlotte Hornets backcourt on lockdown at the moment. They're playing exceptional basketball last year, and I think Devonte Graham was the odd man out. He went from 18 points per game to 14 points per game this year, and he has dealt with injuries, I will give him that, which never helps keep a rhythm, but I think lots of teams will be interested in him still. He's still a great scorer, still a great shooter, and a playmaker, and in the modern NBA, 3-point shooting is essential, especially if you're a contender. So as a Lakers fan, I think the Lakers could do a lot worse than Devonte Graham, so it'll be interesting to see what price will he come at now. He took a step back this year. If it was the 2020 off season, I think he'd make a lot more money. But now he took the step back. How much of a discount could you get Devonte Graham on? As for the Hornets, I don't think they should retain him. As I said, they got Terry Rozier and LaMelo Ball at their backcourt. I think they should focus that money on a center and other positions. So I think the Hornets will let him go, and I think it'll be interesting to see where he ends up going and for how much he ends up signing for. Which brings us on to number 8, Reggie Jackson, who's 31 years old, pretty much in the prime of his career at the moment. And Reggie Jackson had an unbelievable season last year for the Clippers, especially in the playoffs. He improved in the playoffs, which is always a great sign. In last year's playoffs, he averaged 17.8 points per game, 3.4 assists per game, on 48.5% shooting from the field and 41% shooting from 3. Now, with Kawhi Leonard being injured for a good chunk of last year's playoffs, Reggie Jackson stepped up and became the Clippers' second best player behind Paul George. And he's definitely in line for a big pay rise this off-season. He's been playing on a veteran minimum contract for the last 2 years now with the Clippers, but he did speak after the Clippers got eliminated to the Suns in those exit interviews about how grateful he was for the Clippers for giving him another chance in the NBA. So I think there's a lot of loyalty there, but how much money will it take for him to, prize him away from LA? I think he's worth around the veteran minimum, the full veteran minimum, which is around $10 million. Can the Clippers afford to pay that on Reggie Jackson? I don't know. I think he will end up moving on. Surely a team will just throw 15 million at him, and the Clippers can't match that. And at 31 years old, in his prime, Reggie Jackson's not going to get a better offer than 10 to 15 million dollars in his career. So I think he's going to take the money. So it'll be interesting to see though, how strong is that loyalty between him and the Clippers? Will he just take a mid-level exception to stay in LA, or will he go, if a team offers higher than that, will he follow the money? Be interesting to see. On to number 7 now, Dennis Schroeder. He will be 28 years old going into the 21-2022 season, and he averaged 15.4 points per game, 5.8 assists per game on 43.7% shooting from the field and 33.5% shooting from 3. Now, as a Laker fan myself, Schroeder was terribly disappointing last year with the Lakers. He wasn't too bad for most of the regular season. Me personally, I thought he should have came off the bench anyway, but that's another debate. But in the playoffs, he flopped completely. During last year's regular season, he turned down a 4-year, $84 million extension from the Lakers, and I was pretty surprised, why you turned that down? You're not going to get too much more than that anyway. I thought he's going for, $90 million, but he The rumor is he wants between 100 and 120 million dollars this offseason, and there's no way that's happening. You're not getting 120 million, not even getting 100. I think he'd be lucky to get 84 million dollars. I think he should be, he should be begging the Lakers to give him that 84 million dollar deal back, because there ain't no way anyone would be stupid enough to give Dennis Schroeder 120 million dollars this offseason. He flopped terribly in the playoffs. He was pretty much anonymous. The Lakers needed him to be their third best player. He wasn't. He was one of their worst players. His 3-point shooting dipped massively to below league average. And he's not the biggest for a point guard anyway. So he's undersized for the position. And I just think as a Lakers fan, I wouldn't be mad seeing him go in a sign and trade, or if we just get Kyle Lowry in, I don't mind where he goes. So I'll be happy to see Dennis Schroeder go as a Laker fan. Be interested to see who will take him. Probably the Bulls or someone, I don't know. But how much money will they offer him? There's no way a team's going to pay him between 100 and 120 million. I think he'd be lucky to get that $84 million back. So we just see what Dennis Schroeder gets this offseason. On to number 6 now, we got Derrick Rose, who is 32 years old. And he had a great season this year at the Knicks, averaging 14.7 points per game, 4.2 assists per game, on 47% shooting from the field and 39% shooting from 3. Now, as I said, he's incredible throughout the season, ever since getting traded to the Knicks. And he was the Knicks' best player in the playoffs, ahead of Julius Randle and RJ Barrett and those guys for the Knicks in that first round series against the Hawks. D Rose, he made $7 million last year, and I think he's going to make around the same amount this year, between $7 and $8 million this offseason. I think he should stay with the Knicks because Tom Thibodeau, he clearly gets the best out of Derrick Rose, and I think he fits into this Knicks team perfectly. And he's got a pretty big role in this Knicks team, either as a starting point guard or come off the bench as a 6th man. He did start the season off with the Knicks, coming off the bench as a 6th man, making an impact. So I'm sure he'll be happy enough to do that if the Knicks bring in a star quality point guard like a Kyle Lowry or someone. So yeah, I think the Knicks should definitely try and keep him, and I think that Rose should try and stay in New York. Which brings us to number 5, which is Spencer Dinwiddie. He's 28 years old. Now, Dinwiddie only played 3 games last year due to injury, so let's look at the stats for the 2019-20 season, where he was pretty impressive, averaging 20.6 points per game, 6.8 assists per game, and 30% shooting from 3 and 41% shooting from the field. Now, Dinwiddie is a great scorer, and he's a pretty good ball handler. Dinwiddie, last season he made around $11 million, and the rumor is he wants between 20 and 25 million, which is around the same as Dennis Schroeder. 4 years, 25 is 100, so depends how much he years as well. But he wants similar money to Dennis Schroeder. Also, the rumor is he wants to go to LA. Now, as a Lakers fan, I think Dinwiddie is a great player, and I would have him over Schroeder if you put both players in front of me. But really, as a Lakers fan, I don't think we need him. I don't think he suits our style. He's not a great defender. He's a below average 3-point shooter. He's like a slightly better Dennis Schroeder, but we need more than that. As I mentioned already, Kyle Lowry. I'd even take Lonzo Ball back as a Laker fan. But there will definitely be a team out there to take Spencer Dinwiddie. Will it be a contender team? I don't know. Does he want to be a starter or a 6th man? That's another question to answer. But I think there definitely will be a market out there for Spencer Dinwiddie. I don't see a team giving him 25 million, 20 million at a push. Wait and see with that though. On number 4, I mentioned him before, Lonzo Ball, and he's only 23 years old, and he averaged 14.6 points per game, 5.7 assists per game, and 4.8 boards last year, while shooting 41% from the field and 37.8% from 3. Now, Lonzo's improved so much since leaving the Lakers and joining the Pelicans. He's now a pretty consistent 3-point shooter. You can rely on him from there. We all knew going into the NBA how good of a playmaker and defender he was. That's not a problem. So if you add good 3-point shooting with playmaking and defense, Lonzo Ball is definitely in line for a pretty nice contract this offseason. The question is, will the New Orleans Pelicans match any offer that comes his way? I think Lonzo Ball will get around $20 million a year this offseason. I think the Pelicans should definitely match that. I don't know why they wouldn't. He's definitely worth it. I don't see how they can get much better than Lonzo Ball. A young point guard who plays very well with Zion, knows Brandon Ingram and all those guys. I don't know why the Pelicans aren't focusing on keeping him, but the rumour is that they wouldn't mind letting him go. I don't know why they do that, but each to their own. I think he could fit in perfectly. As I said, the Lakers, I'd love to see him back in LA. He could end up going to the Knicks. They got plenty of cap space. So or even the Bulls. So it'll be interesting to see where Lonzo goes. I think he's definitely going to make around 20 million a year, and he's keep improving. He's doing better and better every season. That's great to see. Which brings us on to number 3 now, which is Mike Conley, and he is 33 years old, and he had an unbelievable season last year, averaging 16.2 points per game, 6 assists per game, 3.5 rebounds on 41% shooting from 3. Now last year was a great season for Mike Conley, as I said, because he became an all-star for the first time with the Utah Jazz. And I think the Jazz should definitely try and keep this guy. I know he's 33 and he suffered injuries in the playoffs when they needed him most, but they just got to keep hold of him, I think, because Donovan mentioned Rudy Gobert take up most of the wage bill anyway, so you may as well just keep a guy you already know, and maybe Conley will be loyal to the Jazz. He's been there for 2 years now. He became a first-time All-Star with them, so maybe Conley wants to stay. The Jazz should definitely try and keep him. If the Jazz have to let him go for money reasons, and that will be the main reason, I think I can see him in New York. They got the most cap space, so I think New York would be the team for him. The Lakers, no, I don't see that happening. The Bulls, you could say, I think they'd rather Lonzo. The Raptors, there's plenty of teams out there that could go for Mike Conley. I think he should try and stay in Utah. I think Utah will try and keep him. The question is, how much money will he ask for at 33 years old, and he has dealt with injuries in the past, but he's still a great two-way player. He can bring scoring, defense, 3-point shooting. He has a lot really, and became an all-star last year, so he's shown he can still improve at that age. So we just see where and how much Kyle Lowry will Mike Conley will end going for. I mentioned him there, Kyle Lowry. He's number 2 in this list, and he's 36 years old, and last year he averaged 17.2 points per game, 5.4 rebounds per game, and 39.6% shooting from 3. Now Lowry almost got traded at the trade deadline. The Lakers and Heat were heavily interested in him, and as a Lakers fan, I really wanted this deal to go through. The deal was Dennis Schroeder and KCP for Kyle Lowry. The Raptors said they wouldn't allow it unless we gave them Taylor Horton-Tucker. We didn't, so the deal never ended up happening. Now, I'd still, as I mentioned a few times in this video, I'd take him, even right now at 36 in LA, because he's still playing great basketball, still a great defender, a 3-level scorer, and a leader, an NBA champion. He's been there, he's done it, and he's still got playing left in the tank, I think. And the rumor was at the trade deadline that he wanted a 2-year, $50 million extension from whatever team he would have been traded to. Now, he didn't get traded, but will he still ask for 2 years, $50 million? It's $25 million a year for a 36-year-old point guard. It's a lot of money, but I'm sure a team will pay that. Maybe he might, lower that price a bit and become a bit more affordable to other teams. But I definitely think he's worth, in the 20s anyway. I think he's a great player, and I'd love to see him in LA. A great leader, and he's been there, he's done it. Which brings us to number 1, and it has to be Chris Paul. There's been plenty of talk of Chris Paul over the last few weeks and months, and he's number 1 on this point guard free agent list. He's 36 years old at the moment, averaging 16.4 points per game, 4.5 rebounds a game, 9 assists per game, on 50% shooting from the field, and 39.5% shooting from 3. Now CP3, who is currently playing in the NBA Finals with the Suns, only 2 years ago, he was the worst contract in the NBA. 2 years later, Chris Paul is in line for a big extension. Let's go back to 2 years ago even, when the Rockets traded him to OKC. People only said this guy will only get veteran minimum contracts from now till the end of his career. People thought Chris Paul traded to OKC after Houston didn't want him anymore, that he'd be bought out by OKC and then signing veteran minimums the whole way in. But he's proved everyone wrong. He got the OKC to the 4th seed last year, which is unbelievable, and now he got the Phoenix Suns, who missed the playoffs for 10 years in a row, to the NBA Finals, who are currently 2-0 up in the NBA Finals, which is unbelievable. At 36 years old, his first NBA Finals, and as I said, he's in line for a big extension. The rumor is around 3 years, 90 million or even 100 million. The Suns will definitely pay whatever he wants. The Suns will be more than happy to keep him. My only question is, if the Suns do end up winning an NBA championship, will Chris Paul say, I've done all I can here in Phoenix in my 1 year, I've won them in their first NBA championship, I think my time here is up, move on to something new. And the Knicks, once again, they're linked with everyone. They're heavily linked with Chris Paul. If he does end up leaving Phoenix, I could see that happening. There's no way I see him in LA. I don't think the money won't work. But Chris Paul's in line for a massive contract, and he's come a long way 2 years ago, where he became the worst contract in the NBA, to now at 36 years old being rumoured to make 3 years 19 million or even 100 million. So Chris Paul has definitely recovered his career and might even become an NBA champion this year. Some honourable mentions that didn't make the list were Alex Caruso, Kendrick Nunn, Patty Mills and Cameron Payne. I think Cameron Payne will end up staying in Phoenix. Likewise with Alex Caruso, I see him staying in LA. Paddy Mills and Kendrick Nunn, I'm not so sure about, but we'll wait and see. But anyway guys, that's the video. Tell me, where do you think some of these guys are going to end up on? And on what team they're going to end up with? People like Kyle Lowry, Spencer Dinwiddie, where they're going to end up? And yeah, that's the video. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like the video, subscribe for new, and turn on notifications. Stay notified for when I upload. And with all that said, I'm out of here.